Welcome back to We'll Get You Home, a place to talk about all things real estate with Dave and Jackie of Relocal Real Estate in Kennesaw, Georgia. Dave, Jackie, how you doing?
I'm
doing good today.
Yeah, beautiful day here in Atlanta.
Good. That's what I like to hear.
Yeah.
You played in a golf tournament yesterday. How'd you shoot?
Some good, some bad. It's golf is a four-letter word. Or
You don't
can
miss
be.
much, do you?
I got a lot out of my round yesterday. Let's put it that way.
Good. All
But it was
right.
for a great cause, helping the community, and we like to do that. So
Excellent. Did you do anything exciting yesterday, Jackie?
Yeah, but I'm not going to talk about it because
Okay.
she's still mad.
I'm still mad.
Okay, well, we'll leave it alone then.
But it happened on my way back from checking out some spots for a restaurant that our client wants to open. So,
Okay.
so that part was good. I got some yeses and some nos for some locations.
Good. Well,
And if the license plate was registered on time, it would have been a good day.
oh no. All right. Well, in the vein of you finding property, we're just gonna go over today a little bit of what real estate agents do and then what people can ask their real estate agents in the interview process before they hire them, and things like that. So starting out, just give an overview of what real estate agents actually do, because I know there's a lot of misconceptions about what you guys do.
Leave this one with you.
Oh, well, real estate's so flexible. Yeah, it's right. The schedule is so flexible. That's why people become real estate agents, so they can have a flexible schedule. So
Flexible can also mean expanded. If you use the definition, flexible can be stretched.
This means anytime, any day, you can get called.
Yeah, you're not called all the time, but you can be called at any time, right?
Yeah.
That's a great way to put that. That's right.
Yeah.
And and if you have a servant mindset, when your client calls, you want to be able to jump in and help them at that moment. So
people used to ask me, what are your hours? I say, when my phone rings.
Yeah. Well, gosh, since you got your Apple Watch, it's kind of but she wears it when she wears at night, even while she sleeps. So
yeah.
Never miss a call. Ever.
All right.
Yeah. But what does a real estate agent do? We serve. We get to be involved. I say get to be involved in people's most lucrative investment. They're buying a home. Most people get their wealth over time through home equity, and we get to be involved in that process. And so whether it's helping them buy a home, sell a home, buy an investment property, a second home, land, in this case, a restaurant, open a business, we get to be involved in that journey. So, and over time, we picked up a lot of, tricks and strategies to make that more comfortable, really, for the buyer or the seller, or the business owner.
So you don't just unlock the door?
No, we guide people. we guide people to their destination of where they want to be.
We do unlock the door. We unlock the door to home ownership. Yeah. Yeah, we let people into houses, but oh my gosh, I tell people all the time, because they wonder, well, gosh, all you do is drive people around, and we don't even do that anymore, hardly. People just meet, and we follow each other. When I first got into business, and you met somebody at the office, you put them in your car, and you taxi them around.
Which I miss, because you got to understand, if you have them in your car, you get to understand their goals, and our job really is to help facilitate, to make sure that they reach their goals as far as buying or selling.
A lot of that has to do with personality. Because when you put somebody in the car and you get someone beside you and somebody in the back seat, and you're just having this conversation, you're able to ask questions that you can't necessarily ask
Things get
while you're in the
uncovered.
home.
Yes, things get uncovered.
So finding out what their personality type is probably just as important as bedrooms, baths, and school district.
I did have a client, or a son of a client tell me that he thought his mother just liked to look at houses so that she could sleep in the car with me because she did double shift all the time, so she got to rest as we went from car to
That's
house.
hilarious.
I was like, her ability to take a nap peacefully.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, well, talk about you talked about not what you do as a general sense, but what do you do after you've gotten the house, under contract? Kind of what's the more involved aspects of what you do and the importance of what you do. Kind of go into that a little bit. What can go wrong if you're not there to help, things like that.
I'm in our partnership, I'm more on the front end. Jackie is really good at contract to closing. So
Yeah. I think the main thing to do is watch your dates.
Mm-hmm.
Your contract's got a lot of dates. It'll bases off of binding agreement date, which is the day that everybody has a meeting of the minds. And then the clock starts ticking, and you've got to make sure you've got everything done on time, or you could possibly lose some money or get in a situation that costs you money.
Mm-hmm.
such a due diligence period.
Due diligence,
inspection period.
finance, appraisal, and if it's getting to the point where you can't make those dates, we can make sure we submit a request to extend those dates in time for everybody to sign it, or it
Which,
doesn't
by the
work out.
way, is tricky because in a typical buyer seller situation, the buyer puts down a certain amount of earnest money. It shows their intention to buy the home, and let's say it's $10,000, and and the due diligence period is 10 days, just to make it easy. Well, due diligence, the buyer can cancel for any reason. Again, back in the day, there were no due diligence periods. There were only inspection periods. So you could inspect it during that 10 days, for example, but then you had to give the seller a chance to cure, okay, to make the repairs you're requesting. If you wanted out of the house, man, it's just too many things here for me to want to tackle. You literally had agents, we would write, an addendum that had 35 items on it.
Mm-hmm.
Sellers to repair all of these things using a professional, who's bonded and insured and all these kind of things, to where you just overwhelm the seller, and the seller said, the heck with that, I'm not going to sell it to him. And that gave the buyer the out.
Okay.
Well, then we went to a due diligence period, which allowed the buyer to cancel for any reason. Wake up with a pimple on their head and say, that's a sign from God, I'm not supposed to buy this house. And, and that sometimes that takes it a little too far, but at least in 10 days, I'm going to know whether this house is sold or not if you're the seller. And so, but let's say during that due diligence period, you get to midnight on that 10th day. If you as the buyer's agent are not on top of it, and you haven't sent over a termination release or an extension, and by the way, if you don't sign the extension, then it terminates at midnight and we get the buyer gets their earnest money. If you haven't done that, then the buyer is responsible for that $10,000 and buying it as is with repairs done. And so it's when Jackie talks about timing and the clock ticking, it's important.
Time is of the essence, is truly.
It's a legal doctrine. So
okay. So how do you interview to make sure you get an agent who's on top of it? What kind of questions for both the buyer's agent and the listing agent can you ask to make sure that you get an agent who really knows what they're doing, is not going to miss important dates and get you into trouble?
Do you remember your first client? I remember my first client, and I think this kind of goes right into what you're talking about.
Tell us.
So I got my license in 2006, and I was walking into a neighborhood event. It was Easter egg hunt, and I put on my little name tag, said I was a realtor because I had just signed on with my brokerage, And I was walking down and a gentleman parked by the road and saw my name tag and said, "Oh, you're a realtor. I'm from Florida and I'm thinking about moving here." Gave him my card. That was my first time. So we went with plenty of houses. It was back in 2006, some houses were available to look at. So we finally get it under contract. And so we're going to celebrate. And we go to a Mexican restaurant right around the corner from the house. And he's sitting down, I'll never forget it. Sitting down across from me, he goes, "So, how many houses have you sold?" And I said, "One, yours." And he said, "Note to self, ask more questions." So.
But you got the deal, but you got the deal done, right?
What's that?
Did you get the deal done?
Yeah, he got beautiful.
Okay, well.
And the thing that's impressive about that is it doesn't always matter how long you've been in the real estate business. What matters is do you care about your client and do you have business acumen? Because real estate, although there are twists and turns and tricks, there's wisdom, discernment that comes with time in the business. If you have some business acumen, some of the best realtors are those who've come out of technology backgrounds or marketing backgrounds. Yeah, because it's really all about, number one, how do I get a client? Sometimes it's as easy as a name tag. Other times it's a robust social media, attack, which kind of is what we're doing here. But it really comes down to, do you really care about your client? Are you willing to do the work to make sure you take care of the client? He had no idea she had never sold real estate because she was so intentional about it. But I did pull up some questions that you can get on the internet from this was from a writer who says he's a realtor in Virginia. That doesn't.
Are we doubting that?
Well, I think he probably is a realtor in Virginia, but I think he's primarily a writer. And that's one of the questions in here. But some of these are really good questions and some of them are bad. Do you mind if I go through them?
Sure.
Okay, so here's that's the first question. How long have you been a real estate agent? Okay, good question to ask, but it doesn't always mean that you're going to get a great agent. If someone says, 37 years like me, well, hopefully, it could be 37 weeks or 37 days, and you could get a great agent. So how long have you been a real estate agent? That's number one. Number two, what neighborhoods do you specialize in? I think that's a dumb question in this age because there's so much information available to us, through tax records and online and MLSs, that it's very difficult. Now there's some agents who live in 2,000 home communities and they just specialize in that community and there's plenty of business and they become kind of market experts there. But someone coming in from the outside who lives a mile away can represent the community just as well.
We have a visitor.
That would be Banks. We are dog sitting. So yeah, we'll take care of Banks later.
I was going to say that's not Dave's stomach growling.
Don't tell Natalie. Okay. What's your schedule and availability? Now, what they're really asking in that question is this, are you full-time or are you part-time? That's really the question.
That's a good question.
That's a better question. Are you a full-time agent or are you a part-time agent? Do you have other employment, that you rely on?
Yeah. Do you sleep with your Apple Watch or not?
Is this your gig? That's right. Do you work independently or with a team? Good question. But probably even the better question is, if you're independent, they say, no, I'm on my own. Are you by yourself? Do you have people that can help you? For example, if you're out of town when something happens, do you have a support system? Do you have a support system? What percentage of your business is working with home buyers versus home sellers? Now, this writer says, you should really find someone who specializes in what you do. if you're buying a home, well, you really need to find somebody who's really just a buyer's agent, at least 70-30 buyers. And if you're looking to sell your home, then you should be looking for somebody who is, 70-30 sellers, has listings. I disagree with that. Real estate is a very harmonious system where you're working with both buyers and sellers at the same time. And if you're a listing agent, you want somebody who's going out there and finding buyers they can bring to your home.
He's okay. Just leave him alone. He's okay. He's adding nice background music.
Can I just put him back? No, I can't. So, then the next question.
But in light of that, buyer's agents should know what sellers are going through. And the only way to know that is if you are also a listing agent. And so sellers need to know what buyers are going through. So you need to know how the other people are viewing things.
How long or how many homes did you help buyers close in the past year? That's a decent question. It lets you know if the person is very active. If they've closed one in the past year, that's probably not a very experienced agent. But somebody who's done 10 could be very experienced.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to have somebody who's done 100, or 4,000 in the last year because they've got a 35-member team and they really didn't do those 4,000 homes. Their team did them. So it really is, are you competent is really the question. Tell me why you're competent.
Mm-hmm.
How long does it typically take buyers you've worked with to find and purchase a home? That was a different question in 2017 versus 2023. Yeah, it's kind of like how far are you from Social Security when you ask that. In this market, it could be really, really tough. The real question is, what is the strategy when we find a home in this market to help us win?
That's a good one.
That's a really, I think, a better question because they're really saying, well, how long should I expect this process to work? And really, we've got some strategies to help you win if you're willing to embrace them. And many buyers, unfortunately, think they know more than the real estate agent they're hiring to help them find a home, mostly find a home. And they're not willing to move in the cadence that they need to move in order to win in this market. So probably a better question. How will you determine what homes may match my wants and needs? What is our favorite thing about buyers? Buyers are liars. They don't intend to. I think we've said this before. You asked this question, how will you determine what homes may match my wants and needs? We're going to ask some very specific questions, obviously. And most of those are financial questions, school questions, work questions. Do you need to be close to, baseball, soccer, cheer, an aquatic center. I mean, all this type of, those are, but really your wants are going to be determined when you walk in the door and you go, this is it. And it was nothing you told us when we sat down the first time. Nothing like it, most of the time.
And of course, the market dictates that too, because you can have a list of your wants like this. And in this market, you're going to have to maybe do those things after closing or decide that it's not as important as you originally thought once you see what's out there.
Yeah. How many clients are you currently working with? The idea there is the same thing. It's how busy are you? How busy are you? And are you so busy you can't serve me? Or am I your only client, which means you might not be that good? It's kind of like the old Yogi Berra.
That's a double-edged sword right there.
It's the old Yogi Berra thing. When driving past a restaurant, he said to the driver, nobody goes, his parking lot's full. Line out the door. Nobody eats there anymore. It's too crowded. Yeah. Well, sometimes my granddaddy always used to say, if you want to get something done, find the busiest person.
Yeah, my dad said that too.
Yeah, because that person
I used that yesterday.
Did you really? Well, that would be Jackie. Yeah, she's busy bee.
All right.
And then how will you keep in contact with me during the buying process and how often? That's a good question. Communication. One of the biggest, what would you call it, complaints, from buyers and sellers is a lack of communication from their agent. So what is the process of communicating with me when my house is on the market? And when we're looking at homes. Now, again, in this market right now, if you put a nice home on the market, you don't have to worry about communication because it's going to go into contract very quickly and we're going to be moving through the process to get to closing. If you're a buyer, there might not be as much communication because there's so few houses hitting the market. And we can set them up with technology to where when an agent puts a house in the MLS, within seconds, if it meets their criteria, within seconds, that buyer is seeing it in their inbox as if we sent it. And so they're seeing it many times before we do because we've set it up for them to see it. And so, communication is, in my opinion, not as much of a factor.
Yeah, I took that question a little differently. I took it as, do you text, do you call, do you email? And
yes.
Yes.
All of the above.
Yeah.
Or maybe the question, they should be saying is my preferred method of communication is text. Are you good with that? Would you just text me the information because I like that better and then we can talk if necessary? It's funny how more and more people are not wanting to talk in person or on the phone. They would rather text. They would rather get an email.
That's me.
If the younger generation, we get this all the time. We will answer our phone and people go, "Oh, I didn't expect to get you."
Yeah.
We're like, "Well, that's why I have it." And but that's maybe a generational thing.
Yeah, and there's some things people get really attached to text, but there's some times where you've got to have a conversation.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, you can't get voice inflection in a text. Yeah.
Or you put your own, what you think is in voice
and they
inflection.
take their own way.
Right.
Yeah, so of course you never meant it the way they think. You meant it if they took it badly.
Right, if they took it badly.
That's right.
But for the most part, things can be communicated via text.
They can, for the most part, they can. And most people, all they want is an update. Just give me an update. Here's what happened. Here's what they thought about the showing. No, that house is already under contract, or we need to move on this quickly.
Right.
That kind of thing can be handled in text. I came up with some questions of my own.
You did.
Yeah. And they're not even funny. They're just actual questions. So my question for an agent, I would think a good question for an agent is, why real estate? Why are you in the real estate business? If you're interviewing an agent, whether a buyer or seller agent, why are you in the real estate business? What drew you to this industry? Why do you stay in the real estate industry?
Yes, that myself.
Sometimes I ask that too. Yeah, especially now.
Check in. Why do you want to do this?
I mean, we love this business, and every single one of these, what I call corrections in the market, which is what we're in right now, gives an opportunity for creativity. The market is going to shift in the next year. We've talked about that in previous episodes. The market is going to shift. We're going to have fewer agents in the business. Buyers agents are going to really have to prove and justify their worth because we could have a situation where the buyers are paying the buyer's agent themselves. It's not being paid by the seller if they choose not to pay the buyer's agent. And so you got to have somebody who really loves the business. And so I think this is a good question. Why are you in the real estate business, or why have you stayed in the real estate business all these years? So I think it's a good question.
Yeah.
Technology. What technology do you employ? Especially if you're in the, really in the buyer or seller side, doesn't matter. There's so much technology. What are you using? I would say, I don't know, ask Jackie. Because we're a team. But, or Abby. If you're selling, sitting down with somebody at a listing appointment, what is your pricing strategy? The little bit of technology that I do know is coupled with what I do know about psychology, and that people think in round numbers. We price things on the 25s, 50s, 75s, and 100s. We don't price something at $699.9.
$697.
$697. Yeah. We had an agent at one point who would say $697, $823, because that's what all the math worked out to, and I'm getting it specific. And I was like, "You're an idiot." I shouldn't have called him an idiot, but he wanted, his shtick was that he wanted them to think that he was being so precise in the appraisal process. You know, what I want on that $699 or $697, I'm going to price it at $700,000, because people are going to be searching maybe at that price point from 600 to 700.
Mm-hmm.
At 700, we're going to show up in their search, you know, at the high end of their search. But somebody who's searching from 700 to 800, it's also going to show up.
Yeah.
We're not going to miss them. They're not going to miss that search by $100. And so it's a psychological thing. And by the way, when people are looking on search engines, it's typically $50,000 to $100,000 increments. Lower the price, $25,000 increments you can search in. As you go up, it's $50,000 increments you can search in a certain area, maybe in bedrooms and baths. And then the higher you get, it's $100,000 increments. So they'll have things you check. You know, what are you looking for? I'm looking for 700 to 800,000. Well, I want to show up in both of those searches, high end of a low search, low end of a high search. I think we get more eyeballs, you know, that way. So pricing strategy. And if buying, what is your advice for me? Yeah, I'm a buyer in this market. What advice do you have for me? Mm-hmm. Because you're hiring them to give you advice. Might as well say, what's the advice? You know, let me write that down. Full-time or part-time, we went through that. I think that's good. And then ask them, are you more of a buyer's agent or a seller's agent? Do you do more listings or do you do more buyers? What are you leaning toward? And if so, why? And then it's to me, it's more, instead of how many have you done in the last year, how many transactions have you done in the last year? Tell me about your career. More open-ended. Mm-hmm. Tell me about your career. When did you get in the real estate business? What did you do before that? You know, what has been your journey in the real estate business? And if you want to ask the question, how many transactions have you done during that time? That gives you an idea of whether they've got enough expertise to actually represent you or not. So those would be my questions, you know, that you could ask a realtor that I think would give you the information you need to make an intelligent hiring decision. Because that's what you're doing. We're interviewing for a job.
I think testimonials are a good thing too, but I do have a caveat about testimonials is in this real estate arena, you've got realtor.com, you've got Zillow, you've got your own Facebook, you've got your own website. Mm-hmm. So when you ask for a referral or a review, they may do one. They don't want to do so many of them. So we've got reviews and testimonies out there, just scattered. That's the word. Scattered all over. So it's kind of hard to see all of the testimonials. So in our listing presentation, I printed off things from all different websites to give, because I think it's hard to find them all. Why don't you go searching for them?
You know, that might actually be a great question you want to ask your realtor, is references. Mm-hmm. We do that when we give a resume. We have a list of references. Well, the references would be maybe your past clients or even agents that you've worked with that talked about your professionalism. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the agent was fantastic to work with. It was professional. It was timely, and And by the way, in this market that we're in, maybe then another great question is, tell me about your personality, because you have to get along with other agents in the business. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how many times we have gotten into a highest and best situation where there were 4 or 5 or 10 different offers, and they're all within 1,000 or 2 of each other, or they're so close. And they went with us because we had a good reputation, and they knew that they could work with us. They didn't know the others, or they knew someone had a poor reputation, was difficult to work with. So tell me about your personality. How do you work with, other agents? So those would be some. Yeah.
And then lastly, as we wrap up, what if someone hires an agent that they don't gel with or they're not happy with? I know you sign buyer's agreements, listing agreements. What's the process like to fire them, for lack of a better word, and then hire another agent?
Yeah, they should call us.
Well, they would have hired you. This isn't for you guys, because we know if they hired you, they would never fire you. So this is just hypothetical for other,
And this is tricky. If let's say they have a buyer's brokerage agreement with an agent and they want to fire them, or they have a listing agreement with somebody and they're just not feeling it and they want to fire them, they can reach out to us and we can give them advice. Legally, they can do that. We can't reach out to them. Like if we hear, oh man, Joe, he's not happy, we can't call Joe and say, hey, I hear you're not happy. That's unethical for us to do that. But if Mike tells Joe to call us, we can help them get out of that. But really the way to do it is in writing. Legally, if you sign a buyer's brokerage agreement or a listing agreement, you are bound for the term. But I can probably count on one finger the amount of times I've seen that happen when an agent or an agency did not let somebody out of an agreement, provided there was no contract being negotiated at the time.
Yeah.
If it's prior to any contractual, if it's prior to any contractual, issue going on, then, then you can basically, as the buyer or the seller, with with an email or with a letter in writing, you can fire them and get a release, from the contract.
And,
So,
and there's probably not a lot of pushback, because personally, if somebody wanted to fire me, I wouldn't want to work with them anymore. Anyway.
that's the reason.
I don't want to, they wouldn't feel comfortable with me, and I would feel comfortable with them.
Well,
If that was their,
especially in the social media age.
yeah.
You upset a buyer or seller and they will bury you on social media. And so I'm sorry it didn't work out. Of course I'll release you, and God bless.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of time, maybe the pushback would be if you showed somebody a house and they wanted to go into contract with it, and then they want to fire you. It's like, I'm the one that helped you get where you are.
Right.
That'd be a little sticky.
Yeah. That procuring cause is really iffy. It used to be a big thing back, when I first started in the business. It's called the threshold rule. If you took them across the threshold, then you were the procuring cause and you were due a commission. And then that has morphed over time. And now that's going to go to a jury, I think. And and you never want to get there. I mean,
Right.
I get seized. Hey, I'll defend that in court. Yeah, we really don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to take it to
I'll
court.
defend that in court, and I'm the one that says let's not get to court.
Good balance you guys have.
That's good. She keeps me alive. So yeah.
All right. Well, anything to add based on what we've talked about? I know anything to add for you guys?
Hiring an agent, whether you're selling or buying, I mean, it's a big decision.
Mhm.
It's a very big decision, and so it shouldn't be taken lightly. There's some that say always interview 3 agents. That's a good rule of thumb, I guess. But when you hire someone, when you sit down with somebody, whether you're going to gel with them or not. It's good to ask these questions, make sure they're competent. But really, people like doing business with people they know, like, and trust. If you can sit down with somebody and have a conversation and go, I really like them, they seem like they really know what they're doing, and I could work with them, just hire them.
Mhm.
And heck, we're such servant leaders that if we're the first person you talk to and you like us, we'll even cancel the other 2 appointments for you.
Okay.
I was gonna say the same thing. I was gonna say you're a servant.
Yeah. But yeah.